When children are killed, there are always questions. When those children were known to state agencies, given the power to protect them, the questions only grow. Tonight, the heartbreaking stories behind 2 child fatalities. Both children were known to the Cabinet of Health and Family Services. Could they have been protected?
That's all her.
Flipping through the pages of a binder she keeps close.
She looks just like her daddy.
Melody Roller recorded everything.
All the little articles.
The conversations she had.
When I called the medical examiner's office all the time, every 2 weeks.
The decisions she made.
That's when I was planning the funeral and songs.
These aren't the kind of memories you look back on fondly.
Yeah, this is the nightmare.
Her granddaughter is Serenity McKinney, a 3-year-old from Shelbyville killed at the hands of her caretakers, her mother, Catherine McKinney, and her boyfriend, Dakota Hill. Both are now in prison serving time for her death. Do you think that CPS could have done something to prevent Serenity's death?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Serenity's case is spelled out in more than 100 documents, including multiple reports of physical abuse. In one case, a family member noticed dried blood on Serenity. When she asked the little girl what happened, Serenity told her. Dakota grabbed her by the ankles and slung her around before dropping her on the floor. According to the case file, Dakota had a documented violent history, which included choking and killing animals. A social worker responded to that complaint, made contact with Catherine and Dakota, but not Serenity, and closed the case.
I have a lot of guilt. I put a lot of weight on my shoulders because I should have known. I should have been there.
Another complaint was called in just 1 month later. That person said they have not seen Serenity and have not been able to talk to her on the phone. A social worker labeled that as does not meet CPS acceptance criteria and took no further action. We now know Serenity was likely already dead.
I was furious. Because if CPS would have made sure that they made contact, regardless of the time frame, because you don't know about the time frame until after the fact, we would have known sooner.
It would be another 6 months before police were alerted to the situation.
Yeah. And the only reason why they got involved is because we filed a missing persons on Serenity. So then now you know the rest of the story.
The rest of the story is difficult to digest. During a jailhouse interview, Catherine described the murder of her own daughter. She told a caseworker Dakota was mad at the 3-year-old and punched her in the stomach. She said Serenity started making noises she called the death rattle. Catherine said Dakota put her little body in a plastic bag in a suitcase. They dumped that suitcase in a rural area where they smoked weed. Police called Dakota and Catherine stone-cold killers.
I'm trying to learn how to forgive. Something that is pretty much for a human hard to forgive.
Melody says she avoids the details of Serenity's death and tries to focus on a way forward. For much of the last few years, that's been a focus on forgiveness. And then June of this year,
it was like flashbacks.
Another child's death got her attention. What about that case struck you? Why did you reach out?
Just because of all types of little details that I was learning. The drugs and the CPS was the 2 things that were similar, because in Serenity's case, CPS was called. They went and knocked on the door. They never saw Serenity.
70 miles from the site where Serenity's body was found, another makeshift memorial marks another child fatality.
Well, in this baby's case, CPS was involved, and they never followed up.
8-month-old Miya Rudd, missing for months, then discovered dead under a pile of debris.
No baby deserves this. No baby deserves this.
Trooper Corey King with Kentucky State Police described the police investigation, one that started by happenstance.
This is one of those cases that started out as a drug investigation for us as an agency, but turned into so much more.
A drug operation traced back to this house and the people who lived inside. As detectives dug deeper, a piece of information concerned them. An infant was supposedly living here.
No one has seen this baby. So we launched that investigation, put the drug on hold, and located the parents within days at a hotel in Owensboro, where not only we found both mother and father, but also the grandfather in a room full of drugs, but yet no baby. And that concerned us.
Further conversations revealed the family was already on CPS radar.
Previous children had been removed from this house due to the inability for the caretakers, but also the drugs that are involved.
And police say baby Miya was also known to the cabinet. In fact, an alarming test result raised red flags just days after she was born.
Social services learned that the umbilical cord tested positive for methamphetamine about a week after her birth. And it was my understanding that social services at that point were working to remove this child and could not locate not only the child, but the family as well.
State police couldn't tell us what that effort looked like, only confirming the cabinet never called them for help. The cabinet wouldn't answer our questions about how or if they tried to find the baby, citing a pending investigation. What we do know was that it was police who escalated the search, eventually making a grim discovery, one some say could have been avoided.
You can't get any more innocent than an 8-month-old. You can't get more innocent than a 3-year-old. I hope that the ones that fail these babies are held accountable.
Accountability could start in the state auditor's office because the Office of the Ombudsman, which is charged with overseeing the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, is now under the auditor's agency. The office is supposed to be investigating child fatalities, looking for problematic patterns or practices. But right now, those investigations aren't happening.
What is going on here? This should never happen. This should never, ever, ever happen.
3-year-old Serenity McKinney from Shelbyville was killed at the hands of her mother and mother's boyfriend. Her mom, Catherine McKinney, described the murder during a jailhouse interview. She said her boyfriend, Dakota Hill, punched Serenity in the stomach when he was mad. Days later, she said Serenity started making noises. She called it the death rattle. They dumped her little body in a rural area where they smoked weed. Catherine said she believes this happened June of 2021. The very same month, a family member called the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and told a caseworker she was concerned Serenity was being abused. A second person called the cabinet 1 month after that.
In one case, a social worker went to her house, talked to her mother, but wrote they were unable to locate Serenity and they closed the case. Do you see that as an appropriate response to an abuse allegation?
No, that sounds like red flags to me. There are all kinds of red flags.
In another heartbreaking case, 8-month-old Miya Rudd from Reynolds Station was missing for months before anyone started searching for her, according to state police. Troopers tell us her home was filled with dangerous, deadly drugs, and her parents were known users.
Social services learned this baby tested positive for methamphetamine about a week or so after her birth.
It's unclear when or why her parents were able to leave the hospital with her, but they did. Detectives discovered she was missing by happenstance months later while working a drug investigation.
Social services said they could not source or contact not only the child, but also the parents, and we didn't know where this child was.
According to Kentucky State Police, the cabinet never alerted the agency she was missing or asked law enforcement for help. When detectives did discover her, it was too late. Police say a decomposing body belonging to a baby was found on this property under a pile of debris.
Do you think that we can say here that Kentucky failed these babies?
Yeah, I do feel that way about it. Social workers were involved. The cabinet had awareness of these situations. So yes, I do feel like that's a failure.
A failure, she says, is sitting in limbo because the Office of the Ombudsman, created to investigate cases just like these, doesn't have access to iTwist. That's the database where the Cabinet for Health and Family Services stores CPS records.
It has always been used by the Ombudsman staff. You really can't investigate unless you can have access to this database. And the Cabinet for Health and Family Services has taken the position that they're not allowing us to have access to that database anymore.
She says the Cabinet has been holding the records hostage since the Office of the Ombudsman moved from under the Cabinet to the Auditor's office.
The General Assembly in Kentucky a couple of years ago looked at the structure and said it really doesn't make sense to have that office housed in CHFS because it's about accountability, it's about investigations, it's about corrective actions. And if you are housed within the office, there's just a conflict there. You're not really an outsider who can look at things independently.
The law was passed in 2023. The move went into effect July of this year. With more than a year to work out the kinks, Auditor Allison Ball says her office shouldn't still be waiting.
I'm really eager to make sure everything is in line, everything's in place. This never happens again.
Do you think there's some mistakes being made, possibly again and again, that could be costing little babies their lives?
So that's exactly why I want to have access to the database. It's exactly why I need to have iTwist access, because I do think there are problems. Like, we've already laid out red flags. We've already laid out just horrible results that we know occurred. So I need to have more info. I need to be able to look into this. And then once I do, then I think we can make some changes.
Changes that will come too late to save Serenity or Miya, but changes she hopes come in time to prevent another tragic death. This week, Kentucky Auditor Allison Ball filed a lawsuit asking a judge to force the cabinet to give her office access to the database. The cabinet maintains a different Kentucky law prevents them from providing that access. They declined our request to interview for this story and provided this statement. On numerous occasions, the cabinet believed a resolution had been reached, only to find the auditor's office had changed its position. Monday's action shows the auditor would rather play politics than work with the cabinet on a solution, one that meets the requirements set forth by the General Assembly. Shay McAllister, WHAS 11, on your side.